Captain Zura Vex adjusted her purple ceremonial robes as she entered the Grand Assembly Hall on Nexus Prime. The massive chamber stretched beyond what most species could see, filled with representatives from over 300 civilizations. Today marked the most important gathering in galactic history. Today, they would decide humanity's fate. The humans sat in a small section near the back, their delegation consisting of only 12 people. Ambassador Sarah Chun, a middle-aged woman with graying hair, led their group. She wore a simple black suit that looked plain compared to the elaborate costumes around her. The humans had been silent for most of the proceedings, listening as species after species spoke about the threat they posed. "The matter before us is clear," announced Supreme Chancellor Mordak, his 6 arms gesturing dramatically. "Humanity has shown remarkable military capability in their brief time among the stars. Their expansion rate exceeds all historical precedents. Their ships, while technologically inferior, have proven disturbingly effective in combat." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The Kethari delegate, resembling a giant mantis with crystalline wings, clicked his mandibles nervously. They defeated the Razor fleet with vessels that should have been obsolete. How does a species achieve such results with primitive technology? Ambassador Chun stood slowly. The chamber fell silent as all eyes turned to her. "Honorable delegates, we appreciate this opportunity to address your concerns. However, we must clarify something important. You speak of our military capabilities as if they represent our full strength. They do not." A collective intake of breath swept through the assembly. The Nexari Prime Minister, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline shell, pulsed with agitation. "What exactly are you suggesting, human?" Sarah smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "We are suggesting that everything you have seen from humanity represents our restrained response. We have been holding back, hoping for peaceful integration into galactic society. Your discussion today indicates that approach has failed." The Vorthan War Marshal, a hulking creature covered in bone plates, slammed his massive fist on his podium. "Holding back? Your species conquered the Rim systems in 6 months. You destroyed the Centauri defense grid in a single day with mining equipment and converted cargo haulers," Sarah replied calmly. "Marshal, your people have never seen our actual military in action. None of you have." Chancellor Mordak's breathing apparatus hissed loudly. "Impossible. Our intelligence networks are comprehensive. We know about your fleets, your bases, your production capabilities." Sarah turned to address the full assembly. "You know about our frontier forces. You know about the Colonial Defense Navy. You know about our merchant marine conversions. But you have never seen the Soul Defense Force. You have never encountered the Home Guard. You have certainly never witnessed what happens when Earth itself feels threatened." The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop. Dr. Thane Okafor, humanity's military advisor, stood beside Sarah. His dark face was grim as he spoke. "The forces you have observed represent approximately 8% of human military capability. We maintain this frontier presence to protect our colonies while keeping our primary strength hidden." "Hidden where?" demanded the Kethari delegate, his wings buzzing anxiously. "In Sol," Dr. Okafor replied. "Around Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and the asteroid belt. We have shipyards you cannot detect, fleets you cannot count, and weapons you cannot imagine. Every human vessel you have encountered was built in the outer colonies with deliberately limited technology." The assembly erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted in dozens of languages while translation circuits struggled to keep pace. Chancellor Mordak activated his authority rod, sending a harmonic pulse through the chamber to restore order. "Even if this is true," the Chancellor said carefully, "it changes nothing. Your expansion threatens established borders. Your colonies strain resources. Your very presence disrupts the balance of power that has maintained peace for millennia." Sarah exchanged glances with her team. The decision had been made before they arrived, but protocol demanded they try diplomacy first. "Chancellor, we propose a simple solution. Grant humanity full membership in the Galactic Alliance with the same rights as any other species. Our expansion will slow to normal colonization rates, and we will integrate peacefully with existing trade networks. And if we refuse, ask the next Prime Minister. Then we stop holding back, Sarah said quietly. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, the Vorthan War Marshal laughed, a harsh, grating sound. You speak of hidden fleets and secret weapons, but words are cheap. Perhaps it is time someone taught humanity its proper place in this galaxy. Dr. Okafor checked his chronometer. Marshal, at this moment, the Colonial Defense Navy is engaging your 5th Expeditionary Fleet near Kepler Station. Our ships are outnumbered 4-1, using only conventional weapons and standard tactics. The engagement began 23 minutes ago. The War Marshal's face twisted into what might have been a smile. Impossible. My fleet consists of 60 dreadnoughts and 200 support vessels. Your colonists have perhaps 15 ships in that sector. 12 ships, Dr. Okafor corrected. And you are right that they are outnumbered. However, your definition of conventional weapons differs significantly from ours. The War Marshal activated his communication implant, barking orders in his native language. His expression slowly changed from confidence to confusion, then to horror. My fleet, they're gone. All of them. In 25 minutes, 12 human ships destroyed 60 dreadnoughts. No, Sarah said softly. In 25 minutes, 12 human ships disabled 60 dreadnoughts and captured them intact, along with their crews. No one died. Marshal, this is what holding back looks like. The chamber exploded into chaos again. This time, Chancellor Mordak made no attempt to restore order immediately. He was too busy confirming the reports flooding in from across the galaxy. Similar engagements were occurring simultaneously. Human colonial forces, previously dismissed as lightly armed frontier guards, were systematically dismantling major military installations. "Ow!" whispered the Kethri delegate. "Our ships have shields that can withstand stellar radiation. Our hulls are forged from quantum-bonded materials. Our weapons can crack moons." Dr. Okafor looked genuinely sad. You build your weapons to fight other weapons. You design your ships to battle other ships. Humans build weapons to win wars. There is a significant difference. Sarah activated a small device, projecting a holographic display above the assembly. What you see here is a standard Colonial Defense Navy corvette. Length, 200 meters. Crew, 43. Mass, 15,000 tons. By your standards, it should not be capable of threatening anything larger than a patrol boat. The projection zoomed in, revealing the ship's structure. However, humans approach warfare differently. We do not seek honor in battle. We do not value fair fights. We seek victory through overwhelming application of force and superior tactics. The image changed, showing the corvette's weapon systems. This ship carries what we call kinetic penetrators. Your shields are designed to deflect energy weapons and absorb explosive force. They are not designed to stop solid projectiles moving at 30% of light speed. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The Nexary Prime Minister pulsed rapidly. 30% of light speed? The energy requirements alone would drain most ships' power cores completely, Sarah agreed. Which is why most species do not use kinetic weapons. But humans have always excelled at solving energy problems. We started by splitting atoms, then fusing them, then manipulating matter at the quantum level. Our ships do not carry fusion reactors. They carry micro black holes. The silence was absolute now. Even the Chancellor's breathing apparatus had stopped its rhythmic hissing. Each corvette, Dr. Okafor continued, can fire 12 kinetic rounds before requiring resupply. Each round has the kinetic energy equivalent of a small asteroid impact. Your dreadnoughts are magnificent achievements of engineering, but they were designed to fight other dreadnoughts using energy weapons. They cannot survive physical impacts of this magnitude. Sarah deactivated the projection. This brings us to our proposal. We have demonstrated that human restraint is not weakness. It is a choice. We choose cooperation over conquest, trade over tribute, and integration over domination. But if forced to choose between submission and war, we will choose war. Chancellor Mordak finally found his voice. You speak of 12 ships defeating 60 dreadnoughts. Even if true, the Alliance fields thousands of capital ships across hundreds of systems. Your colonial forces cannot match such numbers, Sarah finished. You are absolutely correct, which is why any declaration of war against humanity would trigger the deployment of our actual military forces. The Soul Defense Force, the Home Guard, and resources you cannot imagine. Dr. Okafor checked his chronometer again. At this moment, 300 human vessels are taking position at jump points throughout Alliance space. Not colonial corvettes or converted merchants, but actual warships built in the Sol system. Each one is crewed by professional military personnel and equipped with weapons that make kinetic penetrators look primitive. Impossible, breathed the Vorthan War Marshal. Our deep space monitoring would have detected such a massive fleet movement. Your deep space monitoring detects ships using conventional faster-than-light travel, Sarah explained. Human ships do not use hyperspace or jump drives. We use something else entirely. She gestured to her aide, who activated another projection. Quantum tunneling on a macroscopic scale. Our ships do not travel through space. They skip over it entirely, emerging wherever we choose without warning or detection. Every major Alliance military installation, every shipyard, every command center is currently within range of human weapons. The assembly had descended into complete panic. Representatives were screaming into communicators, trying to contact their home fleets. Others huddled together, speaking in urgent whispers. A few simply sat in stunned silence, staring at the humans. Why? Chancellor Mordak asked, his voice hollow. Why reveal this now? If you possess such overwhelming advantages, why negotiate at all? Sarah's expression softened slightly. Because, Chancellor, humans do not want to rule the galaxy. We want to be part of it. We have learned from our own history that empires built on fear and conquest ultimately collapse. We prefer the harder path of earned respect and mutual benefit. And if we refuse your membership proposal, then we will withdraw from all Alliance space and close our borders, Sarah replied. Human colonies will become self-sufficient. Human trade will be redirected to non-Alliance partners. And the Soul Defense Force will ensure that no Alliance vessel ever enters human space again. The threat was clear, though unspoken. Humanity would not just leave the Alliance. They would create a rival power bloc, one with technological advantages that could eventually challenge Alliance supremacy. Dr. Okafor added quietly, we should also mention that 17 non-Alliance species have already approached us about defensive pacts. They are concerned about Alliance expansion policies. If humanity withdraws from these negotiations, those species may seek alternative arrangements. Chancellor Mordak slumped in his ceremonial chair. The delicate balance of galactic power, maintained for centuries, was crumbling in real time. The Alliance faced a choice between accepting human membership with all its implications or risking the emergence of a human-led coalition that could reshape galactic politics forever. How long do we have to decide, he asked. Sarah checked her watch, a simple mechanical device that seemed almost primitive in the high-tech chamber. The 300 ships I mentioned are maintaining position, but not taking aggressive action. However, our military commanders have strict orders. If any Alliance vessel fires on a human target, if any human colony is attacked, if any human civilian is harmed, they will interpret it as a declaration of war. And then the galaxy will learn what humanity looks like when we are not holding back, Sarah said. I sincerely hope that day never comes. The ambassador gathered her papers and stood. We will await your decision, Chancellor. But please understand that our patience, like our restraint, has limits. As the human delegation filed out of the chamber, the assembly remained paralyzed. In less than an hour, everything they thought they knew about the balance of galactic power had been shattered. The small, seemingly primitive species from Sol had just demonstrated that they possessed the capability to destroy or dominate every other civilization in the galaxy. And they had chosen to ask for membership instead. The silence stretched on as representatives tried to comprehend the magnitude of what they had witnessed. Finally, the The Kethri delegate spoke what many were thinking. They were holding back all along. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, watching the chaos unfold across her tactical displays. The massive command ship floated in the void between star systems, invisible to conventional sensors and completely undetected by the Alliance fleets scrambling across the galaxy. Around her, 300 human warships maintained perfect formation, each one a testament to technologies that the Alliance could barely comprehend. Admiral, we're receiving priority communications from 17 Alliance battle groups, reported Commander Jake Morrison, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. They're demanding to know our location and intentions. Elena smiled grimly. The Alliance was panicking, trying to locate human forces that existed in a state of quantum superposition until they chose to materialize. Any aggressive movements toward our colonies? Negative, Admiral. All Alliance fleets are maintaining defensive postures. However, long-range sensors detect massive fleet mobilizations across their territory. They're preparing for something big. Expected, Elena replied. She had fought in 3 colonial wars before humanity encountered the Alliance. She understood how military minds worked when faced with an unknown threat. Status on our Sol Defense Force deployment? Lieutenant Commander Sarah Park looked up from her station, her young face serious beyond her years. Phase transition complete, Admiral. The entire task force has successfully quantum tunneled from Sol. We are now positioned at strategic points throughout Alliance space, completely undetected. Elena nodded with satisfaction. The Alliance thought in terms of conventional space travel, where fleets took weeks or months to deploy across galactic distances. Humanity had abandoned such limitations decades ago. When human ships needed to be somewhere, they simply appeared there, reality bending around exotic matter drives that existed partially outside normal space-time. Communications from the Nexus Prime delegation? Elena asked. Ambassador Chin reports the Alliance Assembly is an emergency session, Morrison replied. No formal response to our membership proposal yet, but intelligence suggests deep divisions among member species. That was also expected. Elena had studied Alliance politics extensively. The organization had maintained stability for centuries through careful balance of power, with no single species capable of dominating the others. Humanity's technological advantages threatened to upset that balance completely. Admiral, Park said suddenly, we're detecting an unusual signal pattern from the Zephyrian hegemony. It appears to be a diplomatic transmission directed at us. Elena raised an eyebrow. The Zephyrians were not Alliance members, having remained neutral in most galactic affairs. They were, however, known for their advanced mathematical sciences and strategic thinking. Put it through. The main display shimmered, revealing a Zephyrian diplomat. The being looked like a living crystal formation, light refracting through its translucent body in complex patterns. When it spoke, its voice resonated with harmonic frequencies that human translators converted to understandable speech. Admiral Vasquez, I am Prime Mathematician Zexhai of the Zephyrian hegemony. We request immediate dialogue regarding recent developments. I'm listening, Prime Mathematician. The crystal being's light patterns shifted, indicating what Elena had learned to recognize as intense concentration. Our calculations indicate that human technological capabilities exceed current galactic norms by several orders of magnitude. We have modeled various scenarios based on the data from your recent demonstrations. In 97% of our projections, humanity becomes the dominant galactic power within 50 standard years. Elena kept her expression neutral. That assumes we want galactic dominance, which we do not. Your intentions are irrelevant to mathematical certainty, Zexhai replied. Superior technology, combined with human adaptability and strategic thinking, makes this outcome inevitable unless actively prevented. The hegemony wishes to propose an alternative arrangement. I'm still listening. The patterns in the crystal being intensified. A coalition of non-alliance species, led by humanity, but structured to prevent hegemonic dominance. Shared technological development, mutual defense agreements, and economic cooperation that bypasses alliance trade restrictions. Elena felt a chill of recognition. This was exactly what Ambassador Chen had hinted at during the assembly session. The alliance's exclusionary policies were creating the conditions for a rival power bloc. How many species are we talking about? Currently, 17 have expressed interest. However, our model suggests this number could reach 47 if humanity formally withdraws from alliance negotiations. The mathematical progression is quite clear. Before Elena could respond, alarms began sounding across the bridge. Morrison's hands flew across his controls as tactical displays filled with red indicators. Admiral, massive Alliance fleet movement detected. 74 capital ships jumping toward the Tau Ceti system. They're heading directly for our largest colony. Elena's blood turned cold. Tau Ceti housed over 2 million human civilians, including families who had fled Earth's overcrowding to build new lives among the stars. The colony's defenses consisted of 12 corvettes and a handful of orbital platforms. Against 74 Alliance dreadnoughts, they would last minutes. Time to intercept, she demanded. At conventional speeds, 14 hours, Park reported. The Alliance fleet will arrive in 6 hours. Elena closed her eyes for a moment, running through calculations in her head. The Alliance was forcing her hand, probably hoping to demonstrate that human technological advantages were limited to small-scale engagements. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Commander Morrison, signal all task force elements. Prepare for combat quantum tunneling directly into the Tau Ceti system. We go in hard and fast. Morrison's face paled. Combat tunneling was the most dangerous maneuver in human space doctrine. Materializing directly into a hostile combat zone with no advanced reconnaissance violated every principle of safe navigation. Admiral, the risks are acceptable given the alternative, Elena finished. Those are human civilians down there, Commander. We do not abandon our people. She turned to the crystal being still visible on the main screen. Prime Mathematician, I suggest your hegemony maintains strict neutrality in what happens next. Things are about to become very unpleasant. Zexhai's light patterns shifted to what Elena recognized as concern. Admiral, our calculations suggest that direct military intervention will trigger alliance-wide mobilization. The conflict will escalate beyond containment. Then, the Alliance shouldn't have threatened human civilians, Elena replied coldly. She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. All stations, prepare for immediate deployment. We tunnel to Tau Ceti in 30 minutes. Across the bridge, officers began the complex preparation for quantum tunneling. The process required precise mathematical calculations to avoid materializing inside solid matter or too close to gravitational fields. In combat situations, these calculations had to be completed while accounting for moving enemy vessels and unpredictable battlefield conditions. Admiral, Park said quietly, what about the other Alliance fleets? If we engage at Tau Ceti, every military force in their territory will converge on our position. Elena smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Lieutenant Commander, I think it's time the Alliance learned the difference between our colonial forces and our actual military. Morrison, open a channel to Sol Command. The display flickered, revealing Admiral Marcus Webb, Elena's superior and architect of humanity's military expansion. The grizzled veteran looked like he had been expecting this call. Elena, I assume you've seen the Alliance fleet movements? 74 capital ships heading for Tau Ceti, Admiral. We're preparing to intervene. Webb nodded grimly. Expected. The Alliance is testing our resolve, probably hoping we'll back down when faced with overwhelming numbers. They're about to learn that overwhelming numbers mean nothing when you're using the wrong type of overwhelm. Elena felt a familiar surge of confidence. Webb had never lost a military engagement in 40 years of service. If he was confident, she was confident. What are your orders, sir? Full deployment, all task forces. Every human warship outside Sol System is to take position for simultaneous engagement. We're going to demonstrate what human military doctrine actually looks like when we're not trying to be polite. The implications hit Elena immediately. Webb was talking about deploying the entire Sol Defense Force, not just the task forces currently positioned around Alliance space. That meant bringing out the heavy units, the experimental ships, the weapons platforms that existed purely for system defense. Sir, that's over 800 combat vessels. The Alliance has never seen a deployment of that magnitude. No, they haven't, Webb agreed. And after today, they'll never want to see it again. Elena, your task force takes point at Tau Ceti. Show them what 300 human warships can do against conventional opposition. The rest of us will handle any reinforcements. Elena felt a chill of anticipation mixed with dread. Human military doctrine was built around the concept of overwhelming force applied with surgical precision. They had learned from centuries of terrestrial warfare that conflicts were best ended quickly, before they could escalate into prolonged campaigns of attrition. Admiral Webb, what about civilian casualties? Alliance crews are still sentient beings. Webb's expression softened slightly. Elena, that's why we're deploying in force instead of using other options. Every Alliance crew that surrenders will be treated according to galactic conventions. But anyone who fires on human civilians will discover why Earth's military academies spend so much time studying the historical concept of total war. The transmission ended, leaving Elena alone with her thoughts. She had joined the Colonial Defense Navy to protect human settlements, never imagining she would find herself commanding warships capable of reshaping galactic politics. The weight of responsibility was crushing. Admiral, Morrison said softly, quantum tunnel calculations complete. All ships report ready for combat deployment. Elena straightened, pushing aside her doubts. Whatever happened next, she would do her duty to protect human lives and interests. The Alliance had made their choice by threatening civilians. Now they would face the consequences. All ships, this is Admiral Vasquez. In 10 minutes, we tunnel directly into the Tau Ceti system to engage an Alliance fleet threatening our people. You all know what human ships can do against conventional opposition. Today, we show the galaxy that humans do not abandon their own. She paused, looking around at the faces of her bridge crew. Young people who had volunteered to serve far from home, protecting colonies they might never see. Remember, we are not conquerors. We are protectors. Every Alliance crew that surrenders will be treated with honor. But anyone who threatens human civilians will face the full weight of human military power. Make no mistake about our mission. We go in fast, we hit hard, and we end this before it becomes a larger war. Elena checked her chronometer one final time. All ships initiate quantum tunnel in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 tunnel. Reality twisted around the human fleet as 300 warships simply ceased to exist in their previous location. For a brief moment that felt like eternity, they existed everywhere and nowhere, sliding through dimensions that conventional physics could not describe. Then, space exploded with light as the most powerful military force in human history materialized directly in front of an Alliance fleet that had expected to face only colonial corvettes. The Battle of Tau Ceti was about to begin, and with it, the galaxy would finally see what humanity looked like when they stopped holding back. Elena watched the tactical displays fill with targeting information as her ships emerged from Quantum Tunnel. 74 Alliance dreadnoughts hung in space like sitting ducks, their crews probably still trying to understand what had just happened. All ships, she broadcast, you are authorized to engage. Show them what humans do to protect our people. The galaxy was about to change forever. Fleet Admiral Kethvar, the Alliance 3rd Battle Group, watched in horror as his tactical display erupted in chaos. One moment, his 74 dreadnoughts had been approaching the human colony at Tau Ceti in perfect formation. The next moment, 300 unknown vessels had simply appeared in his path, emerging from what looked like tears in space itself. Report, he barked at his communications officer, a nervous Centaurian whose tentacles were writhing with stress. Sir, massive human fleet detected at close range. They appeared without warning, no hyperspace signatures, no jump radiation. They're just there. Kethvar studied the readings with growing unease. Each human ship was smaller than his dreadnoughts, but something about their design sent chills down his spine. They looked wrong somehow, as if they had been built according to principles his species had never encountered. Weapons status of a human fleet. Unknown, sir. Our sensors cannot penetrate their hulls. They appear to be using some form of active stealth technology. Energy readings are, sir, this can't be right. What is it, Lieutenant? The Centaurian's tentacles had gone completely rigid with fear. Each human ship is generating more power than our entire battle group combined. The readings suggest they're using controlled singularities as power sources. Kethvar felt his breathing slow. A biological response his species had evolved to deal with extreme stress. Controlled black holes were theoretical constructs that most civilizations had deemed too dangerous to attempt. The energy requirements alone would. His thoughts were interrupted as the human fleet began moving. They didn't accelerate gradually like conventional ships. They simply switched from stationary to full velocity instantaneously, as if momentum and inertia were optional concepts they could choose to ignore. Incoming transmission from the human flagship, his communications officer reported. Put it through. A human female appeared on his main screen, wearing a dark blue uniform with insignia he didn't recognize. Her expression was calm, but her eyes held the cold certainty of a predator that had already won. I am Admiral Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Soul Defense Force. You are Fleet Admiral Kethvar, commanding Alliance 3rd Battle Group. Your fleet is approaching a human civilian colony with obvious hostile intent. Kethvar straightened in his command chair, trying to project confidence he didn't feel. Admiral Vasquez, we are responding to reports of illegal human expansion into Alliance territory. We have authority under galactic law to... Fleet Admiral, Elena interrupted, you have 30 seconds to reverse course and withdraw from this system. Any vessel that continues toward Tau Ceti will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. You cannot be serious. This is a 74-ship battle group with full Alliance authorization. Your colonial forces cannot. I am not commanding colonial forces, Elena said quietly. What you face is the Soul Defense Force, Fleet Admiral. We are not colonial militia. We are not converted merchants. We are the actual human military, and you are threatening our people. Kethvar looked at his tactical displays again. 300 ships against 74 should have been favorable odds for the Alliance, given the size and firepower advantages of dreadnoughts. But something about the human admiral's confidence was deeply unsettling. Admiral, I have my orders. This colony represents a violation of established territorial boundaries. We are authorized to use whatever force necessary to. 20 seconds, Elena said. Kethvar made his decision. He had not survived 3 decades of military service by backing down from obviously inferior forces. All ships maintain course and speed. Prepare for combat. The humans are bluffing. Elena's expression didn't change. 10 seconds. Sir, his weapons officer called out. The human ships are powering weapons. I'm detecting massive energy buildups across their entire fleet. Impossible. Their power cores cannot support that level of. Time's up, Elena said, and cut the transmission. What happened next redefined Kethvar's understanding of warfare. The human ships opened fire simultaneously, but they weren't using any weapon system in Alliance databases. Instead of energy beams or guided missiles, they launched what appeared to be simple metal projectiles, kinetic rounds that should have been easily deflected by shields or absorbed by armor. Kethvar was still wondering why humans would use such primitive weapons when the first projectile struck his flagship. The round was moving at roughly 30% of light speed when it hit his forward shields. The energy shields, designed to deflect planet-killing energy weapons, simply ceased to exist. The projectile continued through his ship's quantum-bonded armor, plating as if it were tissue paper, leaving a perfectly circular hole that extended from the front of his vessel to the back. Around him, 73 other dreadnoughts were experiencing identical treatment. Each human ship fired a single kinetic round that passed completely through an Alliance vessel, leaving massive tunnel-like wounds that compromised structural integrity, but somehow avoided critical systems. Damage report. Kethvar shouted, but his bridge crew was too shocked to respond immediately. The entire engagement had lasted exactly 3.7 seconds. In less than 4 seconds, the most powerful Alliance battlegroup in this sector had been functionally eliminated. Sir, his engineering officer finally managed. Forward armor completely breached, structural integrity compromised, but, sir, they deliberately missed our reactor core and life support systems. They could have destroyed us completely, but they chose not to. The implications hit Kethvar like a physical blow. The humans had demonstrated they could have annihilated his entire fleet in seconds, but had instead chosen to disable them. It was a level of precision and restraint that spoke to overwhelming technological superiority. Admiral Vasquez reappeared on his screen. Fleet Admiral, your vessels are disabled, but your crews are safe. You have 2 choices. Surrender immediately and prepare to be escorted out of this system, or force us to use less restrained methods. Kethvar looked around his bridge at officers who were staring at their instruments in disbelief. His ship's main guns were offline, his engines were operating at 15% capacity, and his shields had been completely drained. Around him, 73 other dreadnoughts were in similar condition. Admiral Vasquez, he said slowly, what exactly did you just do to my fleet? We shot holes through your ships, Fleet Admiral. Simple kinetic weapons, accelerated to relativistic velocities by magnetic acceleration. Your shields are designed to stop energy weapons and explosive warheads. They cannot stop solid matter moving at 30% of light speed. The energy requirements to accelerate mass to such velocities are substantial, Elena agreed, which is why most species stick to energy weapons. But humans have always been good at solving energy problems. Each of my ships carries a controlled micro-singularity that provides essentially unlimited power. Kethvar felt a chill of real fear. Controlled singularities were beyond anything the Alliance had achieved. The technical knowledge required to contain and harness black holes safely represented centuries of advanced research. How long have humans possessed such technology? About 40 years, Elena replied casually. We developed it for asteroid mining initially, then adapted it for military use when we realized we might encounter hostile alien species. Turned out to be a wise precaution. Before Kethvar could respond, his communications officer was frantically signaling for attention. Sir, priority transmission from Alliance Command. Multiple human fleets have appeared throughout Alliance space. They're engaging our forces simultaneously across 17 star systems. Elena nodded as if she had expected this news. Yes, the rest of our Soul Defense Force is dealing with other Alliance military units. Don't worry, Fleet Admiral. Your people are receiving the same treatment you just experienced. Disabled, not destroyed. Kethvar accessed the tactical network, watching in stunned silence as reports flooded in from across Alliance territory. Everywhere, the pattern was identical. Human fleets would appear without warning, disable Alliance ships with impossibly precise kinetic weapons, then offer terms for withdrawal. This is impossible, he whispered. No species can coordinate simultaneous attacks across such vast distances. The communication delays alone would be insurmountable if we used conventional faster-than-light communication, Elena agreed. But humans don't use conventional anything, Fleet Admiral. We've learned to manipulate quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication across any distance. The scope of human technological advantage was becoming clear. Faster-than-light travel without jump drives. Unlimited energy from controlled singularities. Instantaneous communication across galactic distances. Kinetic weapons that could penetrate any known defense. Each capability alone would have been revolutionary. Together, they made humanity functionally unstoppable. What do you want from us? Kethvar asked. Nothing, Elena replied. We want you to return to your commanders and explain what happened here. We want the Alliance to understand that human restraint has been a choice, not a limitation. And we want everyone to know that threatening human civilians is the fastest way to see what our military looks like when we stop being polite. She leaned forward slightly, her expression becoming more serious. Fleet Admiral, we could have destroyed every Alliance military installation in the galaxy within 6 hours. We could have conquered every member world within 6 months. We could have reduced the Alliance to a historical footnote and established a human galactic empire. Kethvar found himself believing every word. But we didn't, Elena continued. Because humans have learned from our own history that empires built on conquest inevitably collapse. We prefer cooperation to domination, trade to tribute, and allies to subjects. However, we will not allow that preference to be interpreted as weakness. Admiral, Kethvar said carefully, what happens now? Now you repair your ships as best you can and withdraw from human space. You report to your superiors that the Colonial Defense Navy you've been fighting represents about 8% of human military capability. And you make it very clear that any further aggression toward human settlements will trigger responses that make today look restrained. Elena stood up from her command chair. Fleet Admiral, humanity asked for membership in the galactic community. We offer to share our technology for peaceful purposes. We propose cooperation and mutual benefit. The Alliance response was to threaten our civilians. Please ensure your leaders understand that this was a poor strategic choice. The transmission ended, leaving Kethvar alone with the wreckage of his assumptions about galactic balance of power. Around him, his crew worked frantically to restore basic systems while similar scenes played out across 73 other disabled dreadnoughts. Sir, his communications officer said quietly, incoming transmission from Supreme Chancellor Mordak on Nexus Prime. Put it through. The Chancellor appeared on screen, his 6 arms gesturing frantically. Fleet Admiral, what is your status? Reports from across Alliance space indicate massive human fleet actions. We need confirmation of. Chancellor, Kethvar interrupted, the humans just destroyed Alliance military superiority in a single afternoon. They disabled 74 dreadnoughts in 4 seconds without killing anyone. They demonstrated technological capabilities that exceed our understanding. And they did it while showing restraint. The Chancellor's breathing apparatus was hissing rapidly. Casualties? None, sir. They could have killed everyone, but chose not to. Chancellor, we need to end this immediately. The humans are not bluffing about their military capabilities. If this escalates further, the Alliance will cease to exist. Mordak's expression grew grim. Fleet Admiral, return to Nexus Prime immediately for debriefing. And pray to whatever deities you worship that we can find a diplomatic solution before humanity decides they're tired of being patient. As the transmission ended, Kethvar looked around his damaged bridge and considered what he would tell the Alliance leadership. How do you explain that everything they thought they knew about military power had just become obsolete? The humans had been holding back all along, and now the galaxy was learning what that meant. Dr. Lydia Reeves stood in the observation deck of the UES Prometheus, humanity's most advanced research vessel, watching the chaos unfold across Alliance space through quantum-entangled sensors. The massive ship hung in the empty void between galaxies, technically outside anyone's territorial jurisdiction, but capable of monitoring events across known space in real time. As humanity's chief science advisor, Lydia had spent the last 5 years preparing for this moment. Not the military confrontation, but what would come after. Humanity's technological revelations had shattered the galactic balance of power, but the real challenge would be managing the consequences without triggering a civilization-ending war. Dr. Reeves called out Lieutenant Marcus Chun, the ship's communications officer. We're receiving priority transmissions from 17 non-Alliance species requesting immediate contact. Lydia nodded grimly. The Zephyrian prediction was accurate. Our military demonstration has accelerated the timeline for coalition formation. Put them through, but one at a time. We need to be careful about the order of these conversations. The first transmission came from the hegemony of Vash, a proud warrior culture that had remained independent through superior military technology. Their representative was General Thane Rock, a massive reptilian being covered in scar battle armor. Dr. Reeves, I am General Thanerock of the Vash High Command. Your species has demonstrated combat capabilities that exceed our estimates by several orders of magnitude. The hegemony wishes to discuss mutual defense arrangements. Lydia had expected this. The Vash were natural allies for humanity, sharing similar values regarding the protection of civilian populations and the importance of military strength. General, we appreciate your interest. However, humanity's position regarding alliances remains unchanged. We seek partnerships of equals, not client states. Thanerock's scarred face showed what might have been approval. Understood. The hegemony proposes a formal treaty of non-aggression and mutual assistance against external threats. We offer our shipyards and manufacturing capacity in exchange for access to selected human technologies. It was a reasonable proposal from a species that humanity could respect. The Vash had never engaged in territorial expansion or genocide, limiting their conflicts to defending their borders and protecting weaker species from alliance aggression. We can discuss specifics, Lydia agreed. However, any technology sharing will be gradual and carefully monitored. Humanity has learned from galactic history that rapid technological advancement can destabilize entire civilizations. The next several transmissions followed similar patterns. Species after species offered trade deals, defense pacts, and research partnerships in exchange for access to human technology. Each conversation revealed the same underlying truth. The Alliance's exclusionary policies had created a significant pool of potential allies who saw humanity as their best hope for independence. The most significant contact came from the Ethereal Collective, a group of energy-based life forms that existed partially outside normal space-time. Their representative materialized on the observation deck as a shimmering column of controlled plasma. Dr. Reeves, we are Brightsong of the Ethereal Collective. We have observed your species' manipulation of dimensional physics with great interest. Your quantum tunneling technology approaches principles we have long considered beyond corporeal comprehension. Lydia felt a chill of excitement mixed with apprehension. The Ethereals were ancient beyond human understanding, predating most known civilizations by millions of years. If they were impressed by human science, humanity's achievements might be even more significant than she had realized. Brightsong, we would be honored to discuss our research with your people. However, we must ask about your relationship with the Alliance. We maintain formal neutrality, the energy being replied. However, recent Alliance policies regarding dimensional research have become concerning. They seek to restrict technologies they do not understand, limiting scientific advancement for political purposes. The implications were staggering. The Alliance had been actively suppressing advanced research, preventing younger species from developing technologies that might threaten established power structures. Humanity's rapid advancement had only been possible because they had developed in isolation. Dr. Reeves, Lieutenant Chun interrupted urgently. Incoming transmission from Earth. President Harrison is requesting immediate consultation. Lydia activated the quantum communicator, and President Catherine Harrison appeared in holographic form. The leader of humanity looked exhausted, her usually perfect appearance disheveled from hours of emergency meetings. Lydia, what's the situation out there? I have every Alliance ambassador screaming for explanations, half the colonial governors demanding military reinforcements, and Admiral Webb insisting we prepare for total war. Madam President, we're at a critical decision point, Lydia replied. Our military demonstration has had exactly the effect we predicted. Non-Alliance species are approaching us for partnerships, while Alliance leadership appears to be fracturing. However, we're also detecting massive military mobilization across Alliance territory. President Harrison rubbed her temples. How massive? Every available ship, ma'am. They're consolidating their entire military force for what appears to be a coordinated response. Our intelligence suggests they're planning something desperate. Before the president could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the Prometheus. Lieutenant Chin's face went pale as he read his displays. Dr. Reeves, massive energy spike detected from Alliance space. They're activating something big, very big. The main display shifted to show long-range sensor readings from the Alliance core worlds. At the center of their territory, an enormous structure was powering up, generating energy signatures that made human singularity reactors look like flashlights. "What is that?" President Harrison demanded. Bright Song pulsed with agitation, its plasma form flickering rapidly. "Dr. Reeves, that is a stellar engineering project. The Alliance has been constructing a star-killer weapon in secret. They intend to destroy Sol." The observation deck fell silent except for the hum of ship systems. Lydia felt her blood turn to ice as the implication sank in. The Alliance wasn't planning a conventional military response. They were preparing to commit genocide on a scale that would eliminate humanity entirely. "Estimated time to completion of weapon charging?" she asked quietly. 72 hours, Chin reported, his voice hollow. "Dr. Reeves, at maximum range, that weapon could destabilize Sol's nuclear fusion processes. It would trigger a supernova that would sterilize the entire system." President Harrison's image flickered as emergency protocols activated Earth's communication networks. "Lydia, I need options. All of them." Lydia closed her eyes, running through scenarios she had hoped never to consider. Humanity's military capabilities were overwhelming in conventional terms, but a star-killer weapon changed everything. Even if they destroyed the Alliance completely, they couldn't undo a triggered supernova. "Madam President, we have 3 choices. First, immediate evacuation of Sol system. We could relocate Earth's population to our colony worlds, but it would take years and millions would die in the chaos. Second option, complete preemptive strike against Alliance leadership. We locate and destroy the Star Killer before it can fire, then occupy their core worlds to prevent further attempts." President Harrison's expression hardened. "That's conquest, Lydia. Everything we've said about not wanting to rule the galaxy becomes meaningless if we're forced to conquer the Alliance to survive." "Yes, ma'am. Which brings us to the third option, which is..." Lydia turned to look at Bright Song, whose plasma form was pulsing with what she had learned to recognize as anticipation. "We reveal everything, Madam President. Not just our military technology, but our true scientific capabilities. We show the galaxy what human science has really achieved." "I don't understand." Bright Song spoke, its harmonic voice carrying undertones that human ears couldn't quite process. "Dr. Reeves speaks of technologies your species has developed, but not revealed. Dimensional manipulation beyond simple tunneling. Matter conversion at the quantum level. Temporal field generation. The tools to literally rewrite reality at the local level." President Harrison stared at the energy being, then at Lydia. "Lydia, what is it talking about?" "Project Prometheus, ma'am. The reason this ship exists. We've learned to manipulate the fundamental forces that govern reality itself. Space, time, matter, energy, they're all just variables we can adjust within localized fields." The president's face went through several expressions before settling on grim determination. What would revealing this accomplish? It would demonstrate that humanity doesn't need to conquer the Alliance to neutralize their threat, Lydia explained. "We could simply make their star-killer weapons cease to exist. We could move Sol to a different location. We could revert their entire stellar engineering project to its component atoms. The level of technological superiority would be so overwhelming that resistance becomes literally impossible. And the consequences?" Bright Song answered. "Every species in the galaxy would seek alliance with humanity. Not partnership, not cooperation, but subordination to the species that can reshape reality itself. Humanity would become the de facto rulers of galactic civilization, whether they wanted to or not." Lydia nodded. "It's the God King problem, Madam President. When your capabilities exceed everyone else's comprehension, you become their ruler by default. People worship what they cannot understand." President Harrison was quiet for a long moment, considering options that no human leader had ever faced before. Finally, she spoke. "Lydia, How long would it take to relocate Earth's population? Minimum 5 years for complete evacuation, ma'am. But the Alliance weapon will be ready in less than 3 days. And our preemptive strike option? Admiral Webb estimates 6 hours to neutralize the Star Killer and occupy Alliance leadership. But it would require devastating their infrastructure and probably killing millions of Alliance personnel. The third option? Lydia looked out at the stars, each one representing countless lives that would be affected by humanity's decision. 30 minutes to completely neutralize the Alliance threat using reality manipulation technology. 0 casualties, but permanent establishment of human hegemony over galactic civilization. President Harrison closed her eyes. I need to consult with the Global Council. How long before the Alliance weapon becomes irreversible? 68 hours, ma'am. Then we have 68 hours to find a fourth option that doesn't require us to become conquerors, genocidal maniacs, or gods. As the transmission ended, Lydia stared out at the galaxy that humanity was about to change forever. Whatever decision they made in the next 3 days would determine not just humanity's future, but the future of every sapient species in known space. The galaxy had been warned that humanity was holding back. Now they were all about to discover what that really meant. Ambassador Sarah Chun walked through the corridors of the Alliance Emergency Assembly Station, her footsteps echoing in the usually bustling halls that were now nearly empty. Outside the massive windows, she could see Alliance military ships arranging themselves in defensive formations, their crews probably wondering if humanity would simply appear in their midst like some unstoppable force of nature. 56 hours remained before the Alliance Starkiller weapon would be ready to fire. 56 hours to prevent a war that could end galactic civilization as they knew it. Sarah had been awake for the past 18 hours, coordinating with President Harrison, Dr. Reeves, and Admiral Webb to find what they were calling the fourth option. A solution that would neutralize the Alliance threat without requiring humanity to become conquerors, commit genocide, or reveal technological capabilities that would make them accidental gods. The solution they had developed was unprecedented in galactic history. It was also completely insane. Sarah entered the emergency assembly chamber to find it packed with representatives from every major Alliance species, plus observers from dozens of non-aligned civilizations. The tension was so thick it was almost physical, with species that had been allies for centuries now eyeing each other with suspicion and fear. Supreme Chancellor Mordak stood at the central podium, his 6 arms gesturing frantically as he tried to maintain order. When he saw Sarah enter, the entire chamber fell silent. Ambassador Chun, the Chancellor said carefully, we were informed that humanity requested this emergency session to present new proposals. Given current circumstances, the Assembly is prepared to listen. Sarah walked to the human delegation section, where Dr. Reeves and Admiral Vasquez flanked her in a show of unity between humanity's diplomatic, scientific, and military leadership. All 3 were tired, but they carried themselves with the quiet confidence of people who held all the cards. Honorable delegates, Sarah began. Humanity is aware of the Alliance's stellar engineering project currently under construction. We know about the Starkiller weapon aimed at our home system. We know you plan to commit genocide against our entire species rather than accept us as equals. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The Alliance's ultimate weapon had been their most closely guarded secret. However, Sarah continued, humanity chooses to interpret this not as an act of war, but as an expression of fear. You are afraid of us, afraid of change, afraid of losing the comfortable balance of power you have maintained for centuries. Your fear has driven you to consider actions that violate every principle of galactic civilization. Chancellor Mordak's breathing apparatus was hissing rapidly. Ambassador, if you know about our defensive preparations, then you must understand our position. Your species represents an existential threat to galactic stability. We represent change, Sarah corrected. And, yes, change is frightening. which is why humanity is prepared to offer something that has never been attempted in galactic history. She activated a holographic projector, displaying a detailed schematic that made several delegates lean forward in confusion. The design showed what appeared to be a massive space station, but built according to principles no one in the chamber recognized. This is the Galactic Cooperation Initiative, Sarah explained. A joint research and development station where every spacefaring species can work together to advance scientific knowledge and share technological capabilities. The Vorthan War Marshal, who had been silent since his fleet's defeat, finally spoke. Ambassador, what you describe is theoretically admirable, but practically impossible. Species guard their technological advantages for survival. Dr. Reeves stood up. Marshal, that assumption is based on a scarcity mindset that no longer applies. When technological advancement reaches a certain threshold, security comes not from hiding capabilities, but from ensuring everyone has access to the tools they need for prosperity and defense. You're talking about giving away human technological advantages? Asked the Kethri delegate, his crystalline wings buzzing with confusion. We're talking about eliminating the concept of technological advantage entirely, Sarah replied. Humanity proposes to share our knowledge freely, in exchange for the same from every other species. Open science, collaborative research, and mutual advancement that benefits everyone. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted in dozens of languages while translation circuits struggled to keep pace. The concept Sarah had presented challenged fundamental assumptions about interspecies relations that had governed galactic politics for millennia. Chancellor Mordak activated his authority pulse to restore order. Ambassador Chun, you cannot be serious. No species gives away strategic advantages without compensation. That's correct, Sarah agreed, which is why this initiative is voluntary. Any species that chooses to participate gains access to the full technological knowledge of every other participant. Species that prefer isolation can maintain their current policies, but they forego the benefits of collaboration. Admiral Vasquez stood, adding her voice to the proposal. The military implications alone should be obvious. Instead of arms races and strategic competition, we create a galaxy where every species has access to the same defensive capabilities. No one can threaten anyone else because everyone has the tools to defend themselves. The Nexary Prime Minister's energy form pulsed rapidly. And if some species choose not to participate, what prevents them from using traditional advantages against cooperative species? Physics, Dr. Reeves replied simply. When everyone in the cooperative has access to quantum tunneling, kinetic weapons, and controlled singularities, conventional military advantages become irrelevant. Any species that attacks cooperative members faces the combined response of dozens of civilizations using identical technology. Sarah watched the delegates processing the implications. Humanity was offering to level the galactic playing field completely, eliminating the technological hierarchies that had maintained the balance of power for centuries. It was either the most generous offer in galactic history or the most sophisticated form of conquest ever attempted. There is, of course, one requirement for participation, Sarah added quietly. The chamber fell silent again, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Complete disarmament of weapons of mass destruction. No species gets access to reality-altering technology while maintaining the capability to sterilize star systems. This includes the immediate shutdown of the Alliance Starkiller project. Chancellor Mordak's 6 arms went rigid. Ambassador, that weapon represents our only deterrent against human expansion. You ask us to disarm while your species maintains overwhelming advantages. Actually, Dr. Reeves said, humanity will be demonstrating our commitment to this principle immediately. She activated another projection, this one showing real-time feeds from the Sol system. At this moment, humanity is beginning the dismantlement of our own stellar engineering projects. Every star killer weapon, every planet cracker device, every technology capable of ending civilizations is being permanently destroyed. The images showed massive human installations around Jupiter and Saturn being systematically reduced to component atoms by controlled energy fields. Weapons platforms capable of destroying solar systems were being unmade as the galaxy watched. Dr. Reeves, the Zephyrian Prime mathematician, spoke. Our calculations indicate that those installations represented humanity's ultimate strategic deterrent. Why would you eliminate them before securing guarantees from other species? Because, Sarah replied, someone has to be first. Someone has to demonstrate that security comes from cooperation, not from the threat of mutual annihilation. Humanity chooses to be that someone. The chamber was silent as delegates witnessed humanity voluntarily destroying weapons that could have dominated the galaxy. It was either an act of unprecedented trust or confidence so overwhelming that such weapons were unnecessary. Admiral Vasquez provided the answer. Delegates, I want to be clear about something. The installations you just saw destroyed were indeed humanity's most powerful weapons. However, they were also unnecessary. Our reality manipulation technology means we can recreate them, or anything else we need, within hours. We're not disarming because we're vulnerable. We're disarming because we're not. The implications hit the chamber like a physical force. Humanity possessed manufacturing capabilities so advanced that permanent disarmament was meaningless. They could rebuild their entire military infrastructure faster than anyone else could mount an attack. This is the choice before you, Sarah said, addressing the entire assembly. You can continue with your current path. Complete the Starkiller weapon, trigger a war that will devastate galactic civilization, and face an enemy whose capabilities you cannot match or understand. Or you can join the Galactic Cooperation Initiative, gain access to technologies that will transform your civilizations, and help build a galaxy where conflict becomes obsolete. Chancellor Mordak looked around the chamber, seeing doubt and fear in every face. And if we choose cooperation, but some species do not, then those species become increasingly isolated as cooperative members advance beyond them, Dr. Reeves explained. Not through conquest or coercion, but through simple technological evolution. Eventually, the choice becomes cooperation or irrelevance. The ethereal collective's representative, Bright Song, materialized in the center of the chamber. The collective formally endorses humanity's proposal. We commit to sharing our knowledge of dimensional physics in exchange for access to human quantum manipulation technologies. One by one, other delegates began speaking. The Vash hegemony endorsed the proposal. The Zephyrian hegemony agreed to participate. Minor species that had never been heard in the assembly stood up to announce their support. Within 2 hours, 47 civilizations had formally committed to the Galactic Cooperation Initiative. The Alliance core members found themselves increasingly isolated. Their Starkiller project now aimed at species backed by an unprecedented coalition of technological advancement. Finally, Chancellor Mordak spoke. The Alliance requests a recess to consider humanity's proposal. Of course, Sarah replied. However, I should mention that our dismantlement of stellar weapons has freed up significant manufacturing capacity. If the Cooperation Initiative moves forward, we estimate the first joint research stations could be operational within 6 months. The technological benefits would begin flowing immediately. As delegates filed out of the chamber, Sarah felt a mixture of exhaustion and cautious hope. They had offered the galaxy a choice between cooperation and conflict, between advancement and stagnation, between trust and fear. She checked her chronometer. 38 hours until the Alliance Starkiller would be ready to fire. 38 hours for galactic civilization to choose its future. Dr. Reeves joined her at the chamber's main window, looking out at the Alliance fleet that was slowly repositioning itself. Think it will work? She asked. It has to, Sarah replied. Because if it doesn't, humanity will be forced to demonstrate why we've been trying so hard to avoid becoming the galaxy's rulers. They watched in silence as Alliance ships moved through space, each one carrying crews that were about to make the most important decision in galactic history. Choose cooperation and transform their civilization, or choose conflict and face an enemy that had been holding back capabilities that could reshape reality itself. The galaxy was about to learn what humanity looked like when they stopped holding back. But first, they were giving everyone one last chance to choose a different path entirely. In 38 hours, they would have their answer.